In 2021, Vietnam's public security minister was caught on camera being hand-fed a gold-encrusted steak by celebrity chef Salt Bae in London. The video went viral, stoking public outrage and loud questions over how the minister could afford a luxury meal that cost around $1,500, over twice his official monthly salary. At the time, Vietnam was in the midst of a massive anti-corruption campaign. For anyone else, the scandal would have been a career ender, but not for To Lam. The minister not only survived the corruption allegations, but ascended to the most powerful position in Vietnam. In fact, he's become a veritable strongman, the most powerful single leader Vietnam has seen in decades. And he's poised to cement his control over the ruling Communist Party for another 5 years. How did Lam manage this political escape act? To understand that, you first need to understand why Vietnam itself and its leadership matters so much. Vietnam has quietly become a key player in global geopolitics, especially the China-U.S. competition. It has close political ties with China, but it also has serious disputes with Beijing in the South China Sea. At the same time, Vietnam has become one of Washington's most important partners in Southeast Asia. And economically, Vietnam has emerged as a critical alternative to China in global supply chains, especially for electronics. Vietnam hosts 35 Apple supplier facilities, making it Apple's largest hub in Southeast Asia, and putting it in the top globally. Samsung has invested around $20 billion in Vietnam over the years, and the country now makes over half of Samsung's smartphones. In simple terms, as companies try to de-risk from China, Vietnam is one of their top destinations. That makes Vietnam's political leadership globally important and gives enormous leverage to whoever controls the country. And right now, against all odds, the man setting Vietnam's course is To Lam. The son of a senior police officer, Lam served for 4 decades in the Public Security Ministry before being appointed minister in 2016. As police chief, Lam was a key enforcer of the sweeping anti-corruption drive announced by the ultra-conservative Communist Party chief, Nguyen Phu Trong, in 2017. The campaign, nicknamed the Blazing Furnace, eventually led to the dismissal and arrest of hundreds of officials and the resignation of 2 state presidents in 2023 and 2024. And yet Lam survived unscathed, despite being caught on film eating that gold-covered steak. As his rivals fell, Lam emerged as the dominant figure in Vietnam's politics. In 2021, he was promoted to the Communist Party's secretive Politburo, its most powerful body. He was then appointed president in May 2024 and took over the party leadership after Jong died the following July. How did Lam overcome his own brush with scandal and rise to the top of Vietnam's politics? It's simple. He was the one leading the purges. The key factor was Lam's control of Vietnam's security apparatus. As public security minister, Lam had access to intelligence and sensitive information. That made him a feared man in Vietnamese political circles. As the leader of the anti-corruption campaign, Lam was able to target and eliminate his rivals within the Communist Party. For instance, in May 2024, President Vo Van Thuan was forced to resign over alleged corruption. It's no coincidence he was replaced by none other than To Lam. His zealous implementation of the anti-corruption campaign put Lam in line to succeed General Secretary Jong when he died a few months later. Since then, Lam has wasted no time in striking out from the shadow of his mentor. The steely politician announced a radical series of reforms aimed at creating a leaner, more efficient state and party administration. These small government reforms eliminated whole ministries and literally redrew the map of Vietnam, reducing the number of provincial and city administrations from 63 to just 34. Nearly 150,000 officials lost their jobs in the overhaul. While there is an economic rationale for the reforms, they also have a political goal: to strengthen political centralization and tighten Lam's personal control over the party apparatus. And it's not just fellow officials in the crosshairs. In 2023, a noodle vendor was sentenced to 5 years in prison after posting a video that mocked Lam's infamous steak dinner in London. That wasn't a one-off case. Increased repression has accompanied Lam's rise to power. The past few years have seen a wave of arrests, and there are now more than 160 political prisoners in Vietnamese jails. These include journalists, environmental activists, dissidents, and ordinary people charged with infringing state interests or conducting propaganda against the state. As the noodle vendor discovered, simply posting a satirical video on the internet can be enough to land you in prison. It's not surprising that a man raised in Vietnam's police force would cement control by using arrests to instill fear, but Lam knows that the Communist Party will not stay in power by repression alone. He has described his reforms as a revolution that will launch Vietnam into an era of growth and resurgence. According to Lam, Vietnam has a narrow window of time in which to make the changes necessary to secure its future prosperity and the Communist Party's legitimacy. Of course, Lam thinks he's the best man for that crucial task. In January 2026, the Communist Party will hold its next National Congress, and that obscure political event will effectively seal Lam's dominance for another 5 years. The National Congress is the most important event in Vietnam's political calendar. It brings together around 1,600 delegates representing some 5 million Communist Party members across the nation. The National Congress will set Vietnam's strategic and economic direction for the next 5 years. Most importantly, the Communist Party will also elect its senior leadership, including the position that Lam currently holds, the General Secretary of the party, the most powerful post in Vietnam. If all goes according to plan, the 2026 National Congress will serve as Lam's coronation. Vietnam's Communist Party is one of the world's most secretive political organizations. The National Congress is preceded by months of careful negotiation and sometimes cutthroat power struggles between rival factions, all behind closed doors. But the end result is plain to see. It is widely expected that the 2026 Congress will reappoint Lam as party chief for another 5 years, a testament to his dominance within the party. Some have speculated that Lam wishes to consolidate his power by merging the posts of party chief and state president, which he simultaneously held for a few months after Zhong's death. This would allow Lam to remove yet more potential rivals, but it would also erode Vietnam's model of collective leadership. Currently, power in Vietnam is split among 5 political positions, known as the 5 pillars. Lam wants to move more in the direction of one-man rule. Lam's rise as a strongman leader is remaking Vietnam, with big implications for the rest of the world. With his radical domestic reforms, Lam aims to make Vietnam stronger and allow it to survive the new era of geopolitical turbulence, particularly the growing competition between the United States and China. Vietnam is a key frontline of China-U.S. competition. Over the past decade, it has grown closer to the United States, which is Vietnam's top export market. Vietnam has repeatedly clashed with China over islands in the South China Sea. At the same time, Vietnam has also remained closely connected to China-centered supply chains. The ruling Communist Party also has close historical and political connections to Beijing that prevent Vietnam from leaning too close to the United States. For years, Vietnam has managed this balancing act well, using its flexible bamboo diplomacy. But in an era of strongman rule, the personal preferences of a single person, that is, To Lam, will matter more than ever in shaping Vietnam's strategic choices and the China-U.S. balance of power. Since his appointment as party chief, Lam has taken the lead in foreign policy, making visits to 20 different countries, including China, the U.S., France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. He's taken particular care to balance diplomatic attention to China and the United States, visiting both in quick succession, shortly after being appointed Vietnam's top leader. Lam even managed to seal a trade deal with the famously mercurial Donald Trump. The agreement lowers U.S. tariffs on Vietnamese goods to 20%, down from 46%. But the terms provide for an additional 40% tariff on transshipments, goods made in a third country and merely assembled in Vietnam. That's widely read as an attempt to keep Chinese manufacturers from benefiting from Vietnam's lower tariff rate, and Beijing was furious. Vietnam had to scramble to reassure China at a meeting between their prime ministers in July 2025. Lam could well be the man that casts the swing vote in the growing regional competition between China and the United States. But he wants to continue to keep both sides interested while securing maximum benefits for Vietnam. 4 years ago, a gold-covered stake could have ended his career, but To Lam didn't disappear. He rose and conquered. Now he'll tackle an even bigger challenge, navigating a growing geopolitical rivalry while maintaining his iron grip on the Communist Party at home. Thanks for watching The Diplomat Asia. For more on the global implications of Southeast Asian politics, check out our video on how Cambodia became ground zero for the cyber scam industry. And leave a comment below if there's a topic you'd like to see covered in a future video.